This time on Road and Race, I investigate the mystery that is BMW's M135i. With almost as much power, but at a much lower cost, could it really be better than owning an M3? This is BMW's M135i. Featuring a 3-litre turbocharged engine, it packs a mighty 315 horsepower and 332 foot-pounds of torque. To be honest with you, I never really considered the M135i as a serious performance car. Well, why should I? BMW don't even list it in their M range. For them, it's a M performance car. But give it a drive, and like me, I think you'll be surprised. On paper it's 100 horsepower down, but it doesn't feel less powerful. Because the torque comes in a lot earlier, you get maximum torque in this car at 1400 RPM, whilst in the M3 it comes in about 4000. You've always got a lot of power when you want it. Admittedly, I am comparing this car to the previous generation M3, which is on sale now. But if you look at second-hand prices, it's pretty comparable. A good E92 M3 with 50,000 miles will set you back about £19,000, whilst this car about £15,000. So in addition to outright speed, the M135i is a really good drive. The manual gearbox is improved over my M3. It's a lot shorter throw, it feels a lot punchier, it's easier to find gears, and it's easier to change gears without jerking the car so much. Apart from that, it's a pretty similar driving experience to the M3. The seats are comfortable, the steering wheel is a good size, and it's just as easy to drive long distances. The M135i is also cheaper to run, having a better fuel economy, lower insurance group, and a lower road tax. For a newer car, it's pretty similar in the cabin. It's more of an evolution rather than anything radically new. It is a smaller car though, so there's less room in the back for passengers, and the boot, whilst it's a hatch, can fit larger items. It's actually a smaller capacity than the M3. To really test this car, I've got to get it out on the track. But before I do that, I have to swap out the brake pads for something that can take a bit more punishment. Thus, a quick visit to Rent a Lift at This Is Your Garage in Oxford was in order. My favourite pads that work great on both the road and track are the blue stuff from EDC. So it was out with the old and in with the blue. The first thing you think when you get this car is, this thing's fast. I mean, it's just ludicrously fast. It may have less power on paper, but geez, there's so much torque, it just pulls you out of every corner. This car weighs about 1.5 tons, so it's about 100 kilos lighter than my M3, and you do feel the weight difference. It's a little bit more nimble, you don't feel like you're lugging around as much weight. This is just the standard M Sport suspension in this car, the fixed suspension. It is 10 millimeters lower than the standard suspension and a bit stiffer, and I've been driving around all day and it's fine. You know, it's plenty stiff enough. I'm not complaining about too much wallow. It gives a nice responsive feel, plenty of confidence in the corners. You know, it'd be nice to have driven the car with the adaptive suspension, but this is fine really. The brakes are really good as well. You've got a 4-piston setup at the front, and paired with these EDC blue stuff pads, you can blast around for a good 15-20 minute session with no fade. They stop really well, you can brake really late. Very, very pleased with the brakes in this car. So this car has the N55 engine with a turbocharger, a twin scroll turbocharger on it, and it's actually the same engine roughly that they put in the M2. So unfortunately we have to come to the things that aren't quite as good as the M3. The inline 6 sounds okay. I'll give you a blast now. And even though this car is very good fun on the track, you can really drive this car quite fast, quite easily. The problem it has, and I'll show you on this chicane, is that on low speed it understeers really badly. Like there, I mean, you turn in and it just doesn't have the pointiness that the M3 has. You turn in, you expect it to go right, it doesn't, it drifts and understeers. The other area that I've noticed is to do with the differential. Driving this car with the traction control off is fine, but you do notice it's scrabbling for grip when you try and accelerate hard out of tighter corners, which you just don't notice in the M3. But I mean, that's not really a problem. I mean, if you're a serious track day guy, it's really not a big difference. It's not really a big deal. You know, I only notice it because I've driven the cars back to back, but really, I don't think it's too much of a big deal. I must say though, this guys, his bags are fun. I mean, you could just put it into a corner, drop it down a gear, lean into it, feel a little bit of slip at the back, and this turbocharged engine just really pulls. You can do this whole circuit in third gear really easily without having to change down, because there's so much torque low down that you don't really need to. It's just there where you understeer and in the really tight chicane, which is a bit of a problem. You know, if I wanted something more practical and wanted to save a bit of money, I'd be very happy with this car over the M3. I mean, there really isn't that much in it, I don't think. I mean, I'm not a professional race driver, as you know. I'm just a bit of an enthusiast. But, you know, I'm having just as much fun in this car. To sum up then, this is an extremely capable car, both on the road and the track. It's not quite as good as an M3, but BMW designed it not to be. And this car is half the price. But it's extremely good fun to drive. It's a very good value for money. You know, you'll spend less money on tyres, fuel, just generally because it'll be a newer car, hopefully things or less things will go wrong. But it's not quite an M3 if you want like a ultimate track car or things like that. I mean, the handling isn't quite as good. The sound of the engine isn't as good. You know, you don't have a slip diff, and so, you know, the traction out the corners isn't quite as good. But it's a 9 out of 10 for me, generally, this car. And okay, the M3 is a 10 out of 10, but you know, if you're looking for something that's more economical and costs you less, you could be very happy with an M135i.
For more videos on my M3, click the box at the top right. And if you want to see us track prepare a 2-litre Clio Renault Sport, click the box at the bottom right. And as always, thanks for watching.